Emma and Valley to do a little introduction of themselves?
Yes, that would be awesome.
Okay, perfect. Emma, do you want to go first?
Sure. By the way, Amity, I saw your chat message, so thank you. I'll get that to you. I am Emma. I go to Alexander. Do you need to know my grade?
I'm curious. We don't need to though.
9.
Oh, cool. You're very motivated.
Yeah, I would say so myself. Sometimes I'm not as motivated when it comes to homework, but you know, everybody has their struggles. Yeah, I'm not that motivated when it comes to, you know, math, so, you know, I have my dad as an engineer for that. So, nice to meet you, though.
Nice to meet you, Emma. Thanks for joining us.
You're welcome. Sorry I wasn't on the other meetings. I just thought, you know, since I don't really want to do rural or something, I don't think I should be on there because I don't necessarily want to do that. So I'm like, I'll just do the interviewing because I'm terrible at, I know myself. I just don't do well with interviews. I haven't interviewed before, but I just know myself. I'll be like, I'm social, and that's about it.
All right. Well, we're happy that you joined us.
Thank you, Emma. Valley, do you want to do a quick introduction?
My name is Valley Guzman. I go to Nelsonville York Middle School. I'm in the 8th grade.
I know Valley.
So, do you guys see Molly back there? Yeah. So Molly's from Nelsonville, York, too.
Valley, we did theater together.
Yeah.
Sweet. All right. So, should I go ahead and share a screen?
Yeah.
Get started?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. All right. Awesome. All right. Okay. All right, great. Can everybody see the presentation okay? Yeah?
Yes.
Okay, great. All right. If you guys have any questions, just feel free to unmute yourselves. We're such a small group that you can just go ahead and ask them. Go ahead and interrupt us and stop us. So I chose a quote to start us off that I think really, I guess that it's my view of interviewing is that it's all about preparation. And so you see this quote from Thomas Edison is, we should remember, let me move this, there we go, that good fortune often happens when opportunity meets preparation. And I'm gonna tell you a story about Molly Coy today that's gonna prove that true. All right, so this is me. I'm Christy Kronberg. I teach English at Tri-County Career Center. And as an English teacher, I teach all things English, but then I work in a little bit of time on interviewing and quite a bit of time on building your resume. So here at Tri-County, those are important career skills that we want our graduates to walk away with. And their junior year, students here create their resumes. And that is really a part of the interviewing process, is to be prepared with all that stuff. But then I'm here specifically today because I had an awesome opportunity last year to help coach one of our students in interviewing. Molly Coy competed in the interviewing competition for Business Professionals of America through Tri-County. She not only won top honors at state, but she went on to nationals and won 2nd place in interviewing. So because of my work with Molly, we just found that this was a great story, a great experience for her, obviously. And it was a skill set that I think every high school student should really have and could benefit from. So Molly, tell us a little bit about what you did here at Tri-County and about the interviewing experience.
Okay. So here at Tri-County, I was in the Business Professionals program. We worked on things like accounting and Microsoft Word and Microsoft Excel and things like that. And through Tri-County, I was able to be in Business Professionals of America, which is a club. And through this club, I was able to compete in regionals, state, and nationals for interviewing. and I got to go to Anaheim, California, for free. I was able to visit Universal Studios and Walt Disney World while I was there. So it was honestly a really cool experience, and I got to go with one of my favorite teachers, Charlotte Music, she was a wonderful, wonderful teacher.
So Charlotte Musigas, we wanted to just give a shout out to her. So she is retiring from Tri-County this year, and she's an amazing teacher. She was a big part of Molly's Success Nationals, and so we just wanted to give her her credit and say thanks so much to Charlotte. All right, so here's an overview of what you can expect from the next 25 minutes. So we're going to talk a lot about preparation, since we both feel that that's the most important part of an interview. And then we'll talk about the interview itself and following up. And then we want to encourage all of you, whether you're teachers or students, to take this information today and make things happen. So we have different ways for you each to do that. All right, so part one, the part we said was the most important.
Yes. Okay, so start preparing for this interview.
Molly might want to do up. I'm having trouble hearing. Okay.
Sorry. Alrighty, so for part one, the most important thing to do before an interview is to prepare. You want to make sure that you have a perfect resume, and you also want to practice and anticipate the questions you're going to be asked in the interview. And like I said before, practice, practice. That is a really big thing that I had to do before traveling to Anaheim. And then also you want to do your research. You want to know about your company before you go in and interview with them.
All right, so we're going to talk a little bit about resumes, but we could go into much more detail about resumes, but we'll just show you a little bit about what the students should do. So what I have on the right is an example of a junior resume. It's a student who has really great information from her school experience, but not a lot of job experience. And so we set it up to really show things like her GPA, school activities, things like that. No matter what kind of experience a student has, I always tell them these are the important things you need to do on a resume to make it stand out and be polished. One is to be concise. We want to say as much as possible in as few words as possible. We want to use active verbs so that the words we do have really stand out and sound strong. And then, of course, you have to ensure it's perfect, no errors at all, because this might be your last and only chance to get their attention. And then once you've done all of those things, you want to be ready to share it. So before an interview, most often you would have shared your resume somehow. So if you have to email it or upload it to a website, I recommend you do that by PDF so that that file is going to be nice looking and easy for the person on the other end to read. It could get wonky looking or distorted if you send a Google Doc or a Microsoft Word document. And then, you might have already mailed your application in and shared a print resume, or might not have. But I recommend that when you walk into the interview, you bring some paper resumes with you, just in case there's more than one person interviewing you, or they might not have your resume in front of you. Now, I've walked into an interview before where they, of course, had my one copy of my resume from an application, but there was a panel of people interviewing me, and I was able to provide everybody with a resume, which is just one more easy way to make sure you can sell yourself. All right. So here is Molly's resume from her competition experience last year.
So
We're having trouble hearing Molly again.
Oh, sorry.
That's really good, by the way.
Oh, thanks.
You got me in shock right here. I could not do that.
Yes, you can. You can.
I have a question. Can I take a picture of this if that's okay?
Yes, you can.
Thank you.
So this resume is not really an updated resume. This is one from high school. So I've got a couple things that were added on to it after graduating, but I just wanted to focus on the leadership experience box. So the reason why we chose to use the words leadership experience is because not everybody in high school has gotten a good amount of work experience. It's mainly like through clubs and through sports and things like that. So that's why it says leadership experience. So that's a really big thing I wanted to touch on. Everything else is, pretty basic. You want to have your contact box, and you also want to tell, what schools you went to and what your GPA was and when you're expected to graduate and things like that. And then if you have them, you definitely want to put your activities and honors in there. So things like National Honor Society and maybe if you were in theater. So yeah, that's a really important thing.
So then, after you've got your resume done, the next step in preparing for the interview is to get ready for the questions. So we want to anticipate questions, and that might sound difficult to guess what questions you'll be asked in the interview. But the truth is you can find common interview questions really easily if you Google. You'll also find as you look at them that a lot of them can be categorized into same groups. So a lot of questions will ask you about your strengths. They'll also ask you about your weaknesses or things that you could improve and how you go about making improvements. Other questions will ask you about how reliable you are or how hardworking you are. So if you can start to create answers in advance, you'll be definitely ahead of the game. So I'll just highlight a couple of the questions that I have on this screen because students that I have in high school have said they've run into these in the interviews they've been in, and these are kind of unique to this age group. So what are your grades like at school? Or how would your teachers, counselor, principal say your work ethic is? Or what would they say you need to improve? Those are very specific to this age group, but they're great questions. All right, so then once you have started to think about what kind of answers you have for these common questions, you're probably wondering, like, what do you do with that? Thinking about these questions, we're going to have Molly walk you through the process she went through to get ready.
So the process that I went through to get ready for these interviews and these common questions were trying to sell myself. So finding what I'm good at and finding what I specialize in. Oops, that's okay. And so you really want to know what you're good at and what your strengths are and things like that. And you want to write those down and try to weave those into your answers. Another thing that me and Christy thought was super important was always be positive. So when you're asked questions like, what are your weaknesses? You always want to make sure that you're bringing a positive back into it. So you can say something like let's say you're asked your weakness, you can say something like, my weakness is anxiety, or maybe I take too long on projects. You can wrap that back up by saying something like, I like to take my time because I want to perfect my projects and I want to make sure everything is good before I turn it in. So that's a way you can wrap it into a positive. Do you have anything to say, Ms. Kirkman?
So one other thing I would say I'm always be positive about is that I find sometimes high school students will talk about a previous job they had and talk negatively about the experience. Maybe they didn't like their coworkers or they didn't always get along with their supervisor. That is really something you should avoid.
Mm-hmm.
You always want to leave a very positive tone. So avoid talking negatively, even if the experience was maybe not great. You don't want to make it sound like you're a negative person, so you wouldn't want to mention that.
Okay. And then another thing you want to do is answer with examples from your life experience. This will make sure that the judges or the interviewers will remember you. If you tell a story, they're 100% more likely to remember you. So make sure you add positive stories into your answers. And then also, you can definitely sell yourself by showing how important it would be if this company hired you. So if they hired you, you can show them, I can make this company, how you can be an asset to the company, pretty much. Okay, so let's move on.
So let's talk about a couple examples that might show this. All right, so let's say you get asked, what's one of your strengths? Very common question. Molly, what would your advice be? How can somebody answer that and be specific, but also yeah.
Okay, so something that they can be specific about on their strengths. Okay, so if I was asked, what is one of your strengths? What I would say is, I'm very social. So like you said before, Emily, I think, you're social. So you can say, I'm very social, and I'm good with speaking over the phone, good with speaking with people, and things like that. And so that's a way to be positive about one of your assets that you do have.
And then you could also give an example and talk about how you joined a Zoom meeting with strangers and a bunch of adults on a Monday, May 11th, when all of your other classmates were still sleeping. Well, you wouldn't say it like that, but you could definitely say, you know, that you're not afraid to meet new people, even if it's online. So using even just your experience today would be a great way to show an example of how you're social and how you're not afraid to meet new people and interact, which would be very valuable to an employer. An employer wants somebody who is not going to be afraid to step in and work with new colleagues or customers. Okay? All right. So practice, practice, practice. Once you have created these stock answers that Molly's been describing that she did in her process, then you just have to practice. So for Molly, I know she wrote down the answers to her interview questions and she perfected them, and then she had to memorize them. So I also make my students do that. They have to first write down the answers to their interview questions, and they've got to start practicing. So we're going to talk a little bit about how you might do that if you're a teacher in the classroom. One of the things I have students do is we call it speed dating interviewing. So they have their answers, but now they actually have to say them out loud to someone else. So we'll start the timer for 3 minutes. I'll throw out an interview question. And then they'll have to each exchange their answers and take turns being the interviewer and the interviewee. And then in another 3 minutes, we'll get another question. So that makes it a nice way to get in a lot of practice really quickly for the whole class. Another thing that we do is called fishbowl, and that's where students draw a question out of a fishbowl. They might have 10 minutes or 5 minutes or 20 minutes to prepare as the rest of the class takes their turn. But then we have the person get up in the front of the classroom, share their answer with everybody so they're really on the spot. And then we can talk about it as a class and say, well, what did we think worked really well about the answer? How can we improve it? And that's really fun to do too. Molly had a ton of practice. So Molly, can you talk about your practice?
Okay, so before regionals, the first practices that I started doing is with my teachers, people who I knew. So like Christy Kronberg and Miss M, I would practice with her, and Miss Epley. I'd practice with people I knew and get comfortable with it first. And then once I started building up and I was about to go to California, so I'd already been pretty experienced with interviewing by this point, we moved to outside of Tri-County. So I was practicing interviewing with people from Hawking College and Rocky Boot and things like that. I practiced with the president from Hawking College actually right before California. And I think so practicing with people that you're uncomfortable with is a really good way to get you ready for an interview, because you're going to be nervous and you're going to know how to react when you're nervous. So all right, so I think we're good.
All right, the last step in preparation would be to research the company. So you want to go online, look at their website, maybe even if you know anybody that works there, talk to them about what it's like there, what they do. You want to show the employer that you're interested in working for them. And so knowing something about the company will help. It'll also help you just get to know the company, make sure it's a place where you want to work. You want to be prepared to ask them questions too. So most of the questions will be for you, but you want to show that you're really critically thinking about the job and what it would be like to work there. Here are a couple examples of questions you might want to ask. What does a typical day look like? Or what are the traits of an ideal candidate for this job? What are the biggest challenges I would face in this role? You can Google and find all kinds of other questions that might suit the type of job that you're applying for. And then of course you can just think about, like, what do you want to know about this company and what it would be like to work there? Questions to avoid asking, definitely in a first interview, would be things like money and benefits. Those are questions you can ask and find out answers to later on. Okay. All right. So the second part, of course, is the interview itself. We want you to ace the interview. So if you've done all the preparation, this is the easy part. Arrive early, make sure you leave time for parking, navigating in the building, be prepared with those extra resumes I talked about, a pen, a notebook, maybe a nice binder or folder to put that into. And leave your phone in your car, or if you are going to bring it in with you, silence it. You don't want it to be a distraction at all. Yeah. And then normally we would say shake hands. But right now, I don't know if that's the best advice. Maybe once we're out of the pandemic. For right now, I'm not sure what your in-person interviews are going to look like. Okay. So Molly is going to talk about all of her practice that they help her with this part of the interview. So once you've decided what your strengths are and what you really want to get across in the interview, the content of your interview is really easy. Then you have to put on the next category of things, and that's the nonverbals.
So this is one of the things I had to work on a lot. I talk with my hands and I say and I fidget, and that's all things that you are not supposed to do. See, I just said right there. You definitely want to breathe, and you want to smile, and you want to sit up straight and make it look like you want to be there, and you have energy and you're excited for this interview. And one thing that I used to get knocked on for points is I was kind of bad at keeping eye contact. It's just one thing you have to do. It makes it show that you are there and that you are wanting to connect with your interviewer. And also you need to speak clearly, so enunciate and make sure you're not using words like y'all and slang and stuff like that. So just keep those things in check.
So because of all of Molly's experience, she was able to kind of run through that checklist every time she had an interview, because it becomes natural to sit up nice and tall and watch for your ums. But it is really hard to do if you've only done it once or twice before an interview. So we recommend, again, practice, practice, practice. All right, so part 3, your interview is done. There are 2 main things to do. Number 1 is send a thank you. You really will stand out if you send something in the mail, because it's probably unusual these days. But you also would get a lot of mileage out of an email, because that opens up a line of communication so that they can email you for their questions or invite you in for maybe another interview. So that's a good option too. And then take time to reflect. So what opportunities do you have for improving your interviewing? What do you think are your strengths? What went well about that interview? So that way you can hopefully make improvements every time you have an interview. All right, so here's our call to action. Molly's gonna take it away for those students, Valerie and Emma.
Yep. Okay, so practicing with friends and family was actually super fun. After I had finished my competition in California, I realized that I actually kind of have a skill. I'm pretty good at interviewing. So I wanted to share this with my friends and family. I have my sister, she just recently took a class where she had to make a resume, and I was able to help her. And then one of my friends came to me. He was interviewing for nursing school. He was trying to be a doctor, and he had to interview to get into a special part of his schooling. And I was able to help him gain skills on interviewing and was able to help him ace the interview, as you would say. So, yeah.
All right, and I know we have some teachers that have logged in. So my call to action for you teachers is to find a way to incorporate this into your classroom, because really, even at a young age, even in junior high, students can start getting these interview skills. And you can do it in different ways. High school, I think it's really, really important. I talked about a couple of these earlier, the fishbowl interview questions and the speed dating style practice. I didn't touch as much because we didn't focus much on resumes today, but I use that to teach a couple of key writing skills that I think are nice. Technical writing and parallel structure. They're things that students can take into lots of other writing assignments and really build skills in. So if you are interested in learning more about how I do this in my classroom, I'm happy to share my ideas and lesson plans. And if you have more ideas, if you could share how, as a teacher, how you incorporate this into your classroom, I'd love to hear that too. So please share with me. I have a picture there of my classroom from this last year where we did the speed dating style interviewing, which was really fun. All right, so that is all we have for you guys today. Does anybody have questions that they would want to ask us now while we're online?
Yes, if they were spicy.
So, don't use slang terms. Yeah, thank God she said that, because I'm from Georgia, and when I'm talking to my friends, I use y'all all the time. So that's a good key point. Yeah. I use y'all all the time when I'm talking, like, hey y'all, how y'all doing? Yeah, I'm okay. Can y'all pray for me? I'm so Southern, it's not even funny. And then my dad just looks at me, he's like, and he gave me the face like, you heard that? Yeah, no slang terms.
Does anyone else have a question?
I use that for us.
Anything?
All right, Hannah, I don't know if I can see the text message. Was there any questions over chat?
I do not see anything over chat.
Okay.
Valley or Mary, do you guys have any questions?
I see a message from Emma. She wants my contact information, so I'm going to send that over.
Okay.
But is there a way, Hannah, that you could send or share our presentation? I'm not sure.
Yep, I recorded all of the sessions today, so I'm not really sure how I'm going to share it with everyone yet, but I'm thinking
Okay.
I have to put it in a Google folder and then share it that way, because the videos will be pretty large
Sure.
that way. But I was also going to put together a document with all of our speakers' contact information too.
Oh, that would be great. Okay, awesome.
Yep. Is
Awesome.
there
Thanks for the information. I did a few things with my junior high students, 7th and 8th grade this year, first year teaching careers and finances. So I would probably like a few more ideas for, hi Molly, is that Molly? Hi. And a few more ideas for the junior high level. A lot of career things I was finding was more for high school, and just need some things for the 7th and 8th grade to keep them interested and on their level. That's what I struggled with the most this year. So I did a few things. I just put a bunch of things in a bag, like a cell phone and a flashy shirt, and had the kids pull it out and say, would you wear this to an interview or not? And did a cute little activity. I had that activity. That worked really well. So I have one thing that worked really well. So yes, I would be open to getting some ideas maybe from you to help with my junior high kids. So thank you. I got some ideas, but maybe a few more. So thanks.
Mary, I will try to email you so that we could
Okay.
exchange some information. Okay.
Great. Thank you.
Yep. Great. Any other questions? All right. I know Hannah has to get to her next meeting.
Thank you guys. I really appreciate it. Our next session's at 2:30 with Rocky Boot. So we'll see you at the next one. Thank you, Christy.
Thank you.